Day to day, here's what starts happening now, though. It's the multiples. We put a lot in every day. The other side of the ball puts a lot in every day, and it just keeps growing and growing. The amount of mental decisions you have to make. And it's hard. It's hard on the young guys, but it's kind of whole teaching. You throw a lot at them, you see what sticks, then you kind of pick up the pieces and you throw some more at them. And I think the important thing when you do that is, number one, you got to recognize it takes an incredible amount of mental energy and mental effort to be a good football player. And that's investing a lot of time when you're not on the field. The second thing that's important, and I told the team this, is making sure you understand what is said and you're not focused on how it's said. Because in a practice, coaches are screaming, you're hollering, you're making mistakes, and so many young players, they get affected by how the message is getting passed on to them and not what the message is. And then the final thing is not getting frustrated. And I think a lot of these guys who are new out here, they're getting frustrated by the mistakes, and they can't get frustrated. You got to learn a little bit every day, and the cumulative effect over time is going to pay dividends for them. So that's all work in progress. It was a good second day, and the more important thing is we'll have a better feel for our team come Thursday when we put the pads on.
Derek, you warned us already about the organizational chart, but seeing Tiny at left tackle, at least early, maybe you're still rotating, and Dallas at left guard. Mm-hmm. What about that? Is it just trying to find a way to get him some action?
Well, it's really trying to find the best five linemen, who we have, the best five offensive linemen, and then figuring out where to fit the best five. We know Dallas is one of our best five. He's proven it. As long as he stays that course, and he's got an ability to play guard. Working in Antonio, working in Mack, working in Kyler Kerbison, working in Alan Posey, and of course James is always in that hunt. So the only way to do that is to get him in there. And so we're doing a lot of different rotations to try to figure it out.
I guess maybe sometimes you'd see a veteran guy who's played 2 years at tackle, maybe resistant to, I don't want to play guard, I'm so comfortable with this other spots.
Dallas was great. I talked to Dallas a long time about learning guard. And I told him, I said, there's two things always at work. Number one is what's best for the team. And that's, one of our number one values is being selfless for the organization. But it's also a little selfish boost for him in a good way, because I know he's got dreams of playing after college, and it's a good way for teams to evaluate him as a guard. So there's been a number of college tackles who play guard in the NFL. So I think it's a great scenario for the team, and it's a good scenario for Dallas. It doesn't mean he's our guard. It only means we're looking at him.
A guy like Dallas, who seems pretty popular among his teammates, to do that, how valuable is the example that
I think it's great. Dallas is a team guy. I think he's got a lot of trust in the coaching staff. I think he's got a lot of confidence in his abilities, which he should. And you know what? More guys we have like Dallas, he's a mature guy too. He's been in the program. This is his fourth year in the program. So he knows we're not jerking him around. We're going to try to put him in a spot that's going to help him and help the team.
And how beneficial is it for Tiny to have a resource like Dallas beside him to help him get lined up?
Well, Dallas has historically not been a good resource on the line. He is for himself, but this is good for Dallas because it's forcing Dallas to actually talk. So I can't answer that question. Every time after the play I go up and say, "Are y'all talking?" And I get nervous because I see Tiny talking. Tiny's not the guy. Tiny needs to listen.
Coach, when you talk about seniors, talking about Prentice in the secondary and having the luxury of moving back to corner and just overall depth.
Well, we got a lot of bodies, but I don't confuse the word depth with being good. Depth means we have a lot of guys with some good skill sets that we can try to figure out who our best 4 or 5 guys are. And I don't know the answer to that. It's going to be a real puzzle back there because we got about 10 or 12 guys competing for 5 spots.
Does Rod seem like he fits in there at free safety after playing a little bit?
Well, time will tell. He's certainly getting as good a shot as he's ever got. And so, it's on Rod.
What about the 3-4 might suit AJ? He talked about being pretty comfortable in this already, and I know it's just practice, but what about him could suit what he did? He's really piled up tackles at the end of last year.
Yeah, well, I think some of the things we were doing with him last year exposed him a little bit in space, and I think how we kind of structured this defense, it's going to be able to utilize his strengths more often. But AJ's a good player in any scheme, so he's a good player. And what we got to do is make sure how can we get him to be the most productive player he can be.
When did you kind of realize that he was talking about fall camp, how the light wasn't coming on for him right away? But I mean, there was obviously a switch there about 4 or 5 games in where you probably noticed that he looked like a different guy.
Yeah, he's got a lot of confidence in his abilities. I don't think the light ever came on schematically, but he's a football player, and good football players find their way to the ball when they're on defense, and that's what he does. So he's got a long way to go in being a good football player who's been blessed with a lot of ability and then translating that to play the best he can play. He's got a long way to go on that. But he could be a special player. He could. But it's a lot of mental work. He can't just show up and play ball. He can show up and play ball and be good, but he's got a chance to be really good, and that's going to require a lot of mental work.
What do you want to see as the next step as work in progress? But kind of when you put pads on as a coach, what's the top 2 or 3 priorities?
Physicality on both sides of the ball, and really at every position. We got whipped too many times at the line of scrimmage last year, and so there's nothing more important than playing fast and physical, because that can make up for a bad step. It can make up for the wrong technique. If you're a physically tough football team, then generally you got a better chance to win.
You've said it a number of times, Derek, the football's played and pads. So how much more do you start learning about your team every day once you get to this point?
Yeah, it's every day you learn a little bit more, and you can't. Like tomorrow or Thursday is going to be hard for them because it's the first day in shoulder pads, so everything's going to feel different. And you got to do it over and over and over and over. And there's just no way where you can prepare for it. I mean, it doesn't matter what you do in that weight room. Until you put the pads on and start headbutting people, you don't know anything.
How much time had the coaches been around the players before you went out there and really won?
Well, we've been with them since signing day. A significant amount of time. The maximum amount of time we can be by NCAA rules. So we were working them out in the off-season program. We were having meetings. Everything within the rules of the NCAA we were doing, and that time's important. That's why I think the transition was pretty seamless. The hardest part for a new coach when they come here is figuring out a practice schedule, where to be. It's confusing. Okay, it's really simple, but it seems confusing. But it was good because the players were kind of coaching the coaches on how to do it. They've been through it. But I think that time spent, it paid off.
You obviously hiring a defensive coordinator was a very important thing. And what about Sal did you want and did you like?
Well, it was really 2 things. Besides the fact that he's a great football coach. There are a lot of great football coaches out there, but number 1, we've worked together. We were assistant coaches together, so I know what the core of Sal is. I know what he is as a human being. I know what he is as a competitor. I know how he coaches the players. And number 2 was he's been in a system and structure that's very similar to what we're doing. So those 2 things just made it a great fit for here. There wasn't any personality issues. I didn't have to figure him out. He didn't have to figure me out. And then we talked the same language on what we were doing. So that really helped.
The guys all kind of seem to describe him as fire. He's fire. He's fire.
Yeah, he is.
Said, how do you kind of see his personality melding with the group that you already had in place? He came in under a different guy.
Yeah, very different personality, and that's why I say it's so important to listen to what is said, not how it's said. And you have to learn that, and that's an important thing.
Derek, what about Sal makes players want to play for him and play hard for him?
Well, I've always felt like that the really good coaches out there, the players know they care about them as people, number 1. And number 2, they know they can help them play better by their knowledge of the game. And if you have those two things, I care about you as a person, and you got to prove that. You got to prove that off the field. But then you also have a level of respect about your knowledge of the game. They're going to listen to you because they know if they listen and do it the way you say it, they have success on the field. All right. We'll see you guys.